everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Stash, where I share ways to help you keep your food for longer. Before we get started, and you can probably see here what our topics are going to be today. We're going to talk about pumpkin. Specifically, we're going to talk about pumpkin seeds, but then I did a little something a little bit extra as well. So I'll share that with you. You can see it here. But before we get started, I have two questions for you. First, are you, this will be about pies. Are you a pumpkin pie person or a sweet potato pie person? So if you will drop the answer to that in the comments, just say which one. Are you in the pumpkin camp or are you in the sweet potato camp? And then for our pumpkin lovers, would you please share what's your favorite thing to do with pumpkin? So if you'll just drop that into the comments. Now I will say personally, when it comes to pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie, I'm in the pumpkin camp. I love pumpkin pie, but I grew up in the sweet potato family, so I was the odd man out. Everybody else, they wanted sweet potato pie, and I'll eat sweet potato pie. I like it, but I love pumpkin pie, especially when it's done. The consistency is just right, and it's not too wet. It just has a wonderful flavor and it has a wonderful texture. So yeah, that's my vote. Is It's going to be a pumpkin pie person, and then my favorite thing to do with pumpkin, I like to roast it. So if you take your pumpkin, stuffed pumpkin is really good. You can stuff it. You could do sweet, or you could do savory. So if you're going to do a sweet, of course, it's going to be you think about your fall. We're in this beautiful fall weather. We don't have a lot of foliage change yet, but it's getting ready to come where everything's just going to go golden. I'm looking forward to it. But you think about all of those spices that go with this time of year, where you have cinnamon, you have nutmeg and cardamom and clove, and you can do stuff with, fill a pumpkin with these spices and maple syrup and butter and roast it. That's delicious. But it's also great savory too. So if you took different types of meats and such, and pre-cook brown, your meats, and then stuff them and roast your pumpkin. That's another great way to do it. So put down, are you a sweet potato pie person or a pumpkin pie person? And then also share what's your favorite thing to do with pumpkins. Now, of course, one of the we're in fall. There's all types of pumpkins, and a very popular way. This is people usually like to carve them, but there are pumpkins that are for carving, and I'll move this over out of the way. You have your carving pumpkins. So we have this big one. This is my granddaughter's pumpkin that she and her dad are going to decorate this one. I don't know what they're going to do, but we saw it, she picked it out, and this is her pumpkin. So, but this is a carving one. And then there are cooking pumpkins. So this one specifically says pie pumpkin. Okay, you can do other things other than make a pie, but it's about the perfect size to make a pie. So these are cooking pumpkins, and what's the difference other than the size? So for your carving pumpkins, they're bigger. They have a thinner wall, so it's going to be easier to carve. It's not going to be as dense. It's going to be easier to carve so that you can, do your decorations, carve in them. There's less flesh inside, and they're just easier, for you to decorate. Now, when you have your cooking pumpkins, and they're not all, there's some that are big. I'm going to show you another one, but this is a cooking pumpkin, and these are smaller, they're denser, there's more flesh in them, and less cavity, because there's going to be a lot of pumpkin in here. The texture's different also with this type of pumpkin. This tends to be wetter inside, stringy. This is going to have more of a smooth texture. The flesh is going to be more of a smooth, silky texture to it. And these are sweeter. You know, you can eat. You know, you can eat this type of pumpkin. It's perfectly safe to eat this type of pumpkin, but it doesn't taste that good. um, this is a just the cooking pumpkins are sweeter, and there are different things, you know, that you can do with them. So whether you're making cookies or pies, you know, cake, this would be the type that you would roast it. Once you've roasted the pumpkin, you're going to take the flesh and use the flesh the way you want to in whatever your desserts are. Now, the thing that they both have in common are seeds. Okay, so the seeds in this type of pumpkin are great for drying. That's what I'm going to share with you. The seeds that you get in this pumpkin, they're great for drying as well. Okay, so I'm going to grab some, show you the inside. I have another pumpkin for you. Now with this particular pumpkin, you can see as far as size, it's not as big as this guy. Get the nice side of the pumpkin. It's not as big as this guy, so you can see this is half of it. I was working with this particular pumpkin. It's a little bit smaller. Oh, and I just lost a whole bunch of seeds. It fell out. So it's not as big as this one, and if you can see inside, this does have a good amount of flesh to it. And if I cut and I guess I will do that. Hadn't planned on it, but I will do that. With I'm going to stand up and do this. Be easier to cut. Well, I'll just avoid the label. I just want pumpkin. I don't want any fingers. All right, there we go. So if you take a look at the difference between these two, you see this is a bigger one, but you see the amount of flesh that's here. For this one, it's a smaller pumpkin, deeper, much deeper orange to it, but it looks like about the same wall of flesh even with this small one. One of the things that I noticed with this particular pumpkin, I'm not going to cut the carving one yet to show you the difference in that. But one of the things that I noticed with this pumpkin is this flesh wasn't as sweet. You know, it just wasn't. So I would, even though this has flesh, I wouldn't throw it away. You can use it, and I'll show you how I'm going to use it. But I wouldn't use this for dessert just because it just wasn't, the flavor of it wasn't the pumpkin flavor that I would be looking for from one of the cooking pumpkins. And like I said, generally the cooking pumpkins are going to be smaller, going to be more compact and more flesh. But one of the things that I did do with this pumpkin was I dried seeds. So these are some of the seeds, and I did this in a dehydrator. But if you can get your oven low enough, you can do this in the oven. But that was the tray of seeds, and what's in the bowl, I just covered it, and what's on the tray, this was the seeds that were in this half of pumpkin. Okay, but even though for a half a pumpkin, you know, not a whole lot of seeds, what I did wind up with was 5 trays of pumpkin. I decided I'm not going to let this go to waste. I wasn't going to use it immediately, so I went ahead and dried it. So this was the pumpkin that was what's in this jar and what's on this tray. That's what I got in this half a pumpkin. And I'm going to do the other half a pumpkin. So I will tell you how I did that. So what you're going to do, you are going to remove the seeds, and what you're looking for is when you take the seeds out, you want the seeds, and let me get a little basket. I forgot to turn my phone off, everyone. Sorry. I will turn that off. There you go. All right, so what you're going to do is when you remove the seeds, you want to remove all of this stringy stuff. So you just want the seeds. So, and they come off pretty easily. Okay, and you're going to do that for all of the pumpkin that's in there. So you can take off the goo, you just want the seeds. So once you've taken all the strings off of the seeds, rinse them. You're going to rinse all the flesh off, you know, all of the goo, make sure there's not any strings there. Rinse them well, and I just went ahead and poured them on a paper towel to let them dry a bit, you know, get you know, so they're just not soaking wet. And then I spread them on the tray. And then once I spread them on the tray, I dried them in a dehydrator, 115 degree dehydrator, and it took about 2.5 hours. You know, I'll tell you it takes 2 to 3 hours. It took about 2.5 hours for these to dry enough. I need to wash my hands real quick. And once they're dry, then you want to have a container that you're going to store them in. So these seeds are going to go pretty quickly. They're not going to be around for a long time because I like to snack on pumpkin seeds. They also can go in, like if you decide to make a trail mix or something like that, you know. But like I said, there's such a small amount. I only have one tray. They're going to go quickly. So actually I'm going to store these in the sandwich bag, because when you dry them, and I'm get that tray out as well, when you dehydrate them, what you want to do is protect against moisture, because they will start absorbing moisture from the air. So you're just going to put them in the bag, squeeze all the air out, and store them in a cool place. Okay, and this way they'll stay nice, dry, crispy, and you can, you know, they're going to last. They'll, let's see, they're probably going to last probably about 3 months in a cool location. But if you have a bunch of seeds also, you can store them in the freezer. And in the freezer, you're going to have even longer storage. But make sure, I would use a freezer bag. If you're going to store in the freezer, use a freezer bag instead, or use a freezer jar. This isn't a freezer jar. It would be, I would use one of the pint-sized freezer jars if I was going to freeze there. And because you're trying to keep the moisture out, and that's going to extend the shelf life. Okay, so just make sure that they stay in a nice cool location. And like I said, the drying, it's going to be about 115, 120 degrees for 1 to 2. Well, it took mine it was about 2.5 hours for it to completely dry. And if you find that you've put it in the bag and you see any moisture accumulating in the bag, they're not dry enough. So you want to put them back on the tray, stick them back in the dehydrator, and continue to dry them. Now, you can dry seeds in your oven also if you can get your oven low enough. But keep in mind, these are drying at about 115 to 120 degrees. Most ovens, I know my oven, the lowest setting that I can get was 170 degrees is the lowest. Some ovens have a warm setting, and that's going to be about 140 degrees. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to do it in the oven, it's going to take you a little bit longer to do it in the oven. You don't have the same air circulation that you're going to get from an electronic dehydrator, and you might have to prop the door open to keep it from getting too hot in there, You want to keep the pumpkin seeds moving, like you want to turn them and everything. So you want to avoid them becoming burnt, or overcooked. Another thing you could do is you could roast them. Now, if you're going to roast them, you're going to toss them with a little oil and maybe some salt. You put them into a 250-degree oven, and then you can have roasted pumpkin seeds. That's another tasty snack, but that's only going to take you about 15 to 20 minutes if you decide to roast them instead. But I like to keep them a little longer. If you're going to roast them, that's something that you're going to go ahead and eat. I like to keep the pumpkin seeds for longer, so that's why I want to dehydrate them and dry them, not cook them. When you're roasting them, it's cooked food. You're cooking them. Okay. Now, another thing that you can do, like I said, you can dry the pumpkin flesh also. So this is what dried pumpkin, that's what the dried pumpkin is going to look like. I'll go that way, and then I'll go that way. So what you want, 1 inch wide, your strips to be 1 inch wide by 1/8 inch thick. So that's what you're looking for. So with this, what I did remove all of the seeds so that I could dry them, and then I used a melon baller, and it worked really well because with the melon baller, what it does, what I did was with the melon baller, I was able to scrape all of the strings out of the inside. I didn't have to deal with all of this. I pulled all the seeds out, but then I scraped all of the string out with the melon baller, and then I just cut it up in pieces, peeled it, and I had 1 inch wide strips, and I cut, once I had the strips in place, then I sliced it into 1/8 inch slices. But it can't go straight into the dehydrator. You have to blanch first. So basically, you can have a pot of boiling water, drop all of your pumpkin slices in the boiling water. You're going to blanch for 4 minutes, and then it needs to go into ice water to cool down for 4 minutes. Drain it, then you can spread it on the tray. And what this does is the blanching is going to inactivate the enzymes that cause spoilage. So they're going to break this down. It helps to set the color. These slices look really good, so you want to make sure instead of just going straight into the dehydrated, go ahead and blanch. Now, what am I going to do with this stuff? I will use it with soup. I will rehydrate it. I could either make a soup and just drop dehydrated pumpkin in it, let it rehydrate. We could eat it that way, or I can rehydrate and I can make a pumpkin bisque. So this will last a while. Usually for us, dehydrated things don't last that long. When we did the pears, we've eaten all of the pears that we've already dehydrated. This will be around for a little bit longer. I don't see us. I mean, it makes a nice snack. You can snack on these also, but I think it'll be better off with the soup. Whether or not you dry pumpkin or seeds, the pumpkin or the seeds, just keep in mind, cool and dry. Okay, you don't want it to, you don't want to see any moisture, and then as often as you open up the bag, you're allowing moisture in. You keep it cool and dry. That will keep a really nice shelf life. Like I said, this is going to last probably about 3 to 4 months. If I wanted to keep it longer, I would put it in the freezer bag or freezer container, and I would keep it in the freezer. But they should, this for the amount of time before I'll use this jar will work really well. So I hope you enjoy working with pumpkin this season. Keep in mind, like if you've only ever used the pumpkin to make a jack-o'-lantern, you were throwing all those seeds in the trash, stop. Gather the seeds, go ahead and dry them, and you can enjoy those as well. And that's it for this Wednesday Stash. Join me next week. Our theme this month is drying. So we're going to be drying different things. But I wanted to talk about desiccants because for long-term food storage, some people like to use desiccants to assist in their food, you know, keeping the moisture out of the food. So I'm going to talk to you about it, desiccants, you know, what they are, where to find them, how to use them, and do you need them? Is this something that you really should invest the time looking for them? We're going to talk about all of that on next week's Wednesday Stash. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget to drop in the comment section whether you are a pumpkin person or a sweet potato person. Drop in what's your favorite thing to do with pumpkin, and I have a fact sheet that I'm going to drop into the comment section that talks about freezing pumpkin, canning pumpkin, and drying pumpkin. That's it for this week's Wednesday Stash, and thank you for joining me, and take care. Enjoy fall. Do something really, really fun. Go to a pumpkin patch. Get a pumpkin. Bye.